You still here with your homeboy first. This is the realest, most entertaining sports show in the game. Put it on something. I'm very pleased, very happy, very privileged to still have my OG Liegh McKinnis here with me. Uh, because I wanted his wisdom on an occurrence that recently happened in the world of sports, and that is long time baseball manager Dusty Baker finally broke through and won the World Series with the Houston Astros. Okay. If y'all know real one, Dusty Baker is coached all around the league. You understand? It's one of those rare occurrences where a black man gets numerous chances, in numerous stops. But throughout his career, he's managed, the Giants, with Barry Bonds. If I'm not mistaken, he managed the Cubs. Like he's been to a lot of these notable franchises, had great teams, wherever he's been a winner wherever he's been, and just not been able to get over that hump. So I wanted to ask my OG about the significance of this black man as a manager, as the leader of the team, winning this World Series, because we know baseball today has a problem when it comes to the African American community. I know when y'all look out there, you see some other brothers from the African diaspora, brothers that may have gone, their families come from Cuba or Dominican Republic and things like that. But I'm just talking about Black Americans. A lot of Black Americans have moved away from the game. You don't see the Jackie Robinsons, the Willie Mazes, and even the Ken Griffiths from my childhood. You don't see a lot of them anymore. But this black man just won the World Series. So I want to ask my OG for his thoughts on this occurrence.
Good sir, just like everybody else, I want to extend my congratulations to Dusty Baker, right? The head coach, people don't know managing baseball is the head coach, right, of the Houston Astros, for becoming only the third African-American manager to lead a team to World Series victory after Cito Gaston did it in 1992 and 93 as the head coach of the Toronto Blue Jays, and then Dave Roberts did it most recently in 2020 with the Dodgers. Coach Baker's accomplishment is particularly essential at a time when the African-American presence is constantly decreasing from baseball. Check this out, brother, first. This is the first World Series not to have an African-American player since 1950. Over 72 years.
Dang.
And we didn't have not one player. Dang. Moreover, Coach Baker, like you just said, despite being a three-time manager of the year, so he's three-time manager of the year, he led 12 teams to the playoffs, which ranks fourth all-time as managers. He's won 9 division titles. Only 3 other managers have won more division titles. After doing all this, did you know he was unable to find a job as manager until recently? And check this out. He was only given the opportunity to return to coaching because no one else wanted the job of managing the Houston Astros after they had been found guilty of cheating their way to their last World Series championship. Thus, once again, a black person must do the job that no one else wants, yet is able to take white people's scraps and create a beautiful meal while returning a defamed organization to dignity. Because Dusty Baker has ample amounts of dignity and integrity that cannot be refuted. Now, in full transparency, brother, first, I didn't want Coach Baker to take the job because I understood he was only being given the job because no one else wanted it. However, Baker is another example that many times African Americans, no matter how talented we are, must take the worst opportunities and make the most of it. And that he did. To be clear, the Astros have plenty of talent. Nobody wins a World Series on grit and dignity alone. But Coach Baker has proven himself to be a leader of men who can get a team to focus on a singular mission after having been deemed the pariahs of the league. I still don't know if I would have taken the job, brother, first. But with a purposeful removal of black players from the league, and I'm going to explain how it was purposeful in a moment. With a purposeful removal of black players from the league, Coach Baker once again shows that his mission is bigger than baseball. In the tradition of Jackie Robinson, Kurt Flood, if y'all don't know the name Kurt Flood, Curt Flood invented free agency. There was no free agency until Curt Flood, who was one of the top baseball players at the time, sacrificed his entire career, died broke, just so that brothers and everybody else today can have free agency. And also, we got to mention the great Hank Aaron. And FYI, here's a little known Black history information for you. Dusty Baker was actually in the on deck circle when Hank Aaron hit home run number 715 to Babe Ruth's record. So Baker was and also Dusty Baker was a Hall of Fame caliber player. He was a two-time All-Star. He was a National League Conference Series MVP. He was a Golden Glove winner. For those who don't know, that means he could pick that thing up. And he was a two-time Silver Slugger winner. That means he won the award for being the best hitter in the league two times. So Baker has lived history and understands the importance of making it, which made him the perfect choice to lead the Houston Astros from infamy to honor. Now, I'll say this last thing when I say purposeful. This is not coming out of my mouth. This is coming out of the mouth of David Ortiz, Big Papi. So when folks get mad, don't get mad at me.
Okay.
Baseball purposefully stopped investing in inner cities and started investing in the Dominican Republic and places like that. And these are David Ortiz's words. These not mine. David Ortiz said baseball did that because they know that the Dominican brothers are more docile than the African American brothers. That the Dominican brothers, because of poverty and because of fewer opportunities, will take and not fight against white supremacy in the same way. And so what baseball did, starting around like in the in the late 80s and 90s, when coming up for me, I played Little League Baseball starting probably about 6th grade. Major League Baseball used to invest in uniforms and in parks. They took all that money from the inner cities and put it in the Dominican. They made a purposeful de-investment in African Americans and investment in the Dominican Republic and places like that. Because again, these are David Ortiz's words, because they saw the Dominican brothers being more docile and less politicized. Now, I'll tell you a little funny story. My father always hated me telling this story because, again, I was a third-generation baseball player. My grandfather, he participated in Negro League barnstorming. He wasn't in the barn. He wasn't in the Negro League, but he participated when the Negro Leagues would go around and barnstorm to generate hype for the games. They would play against local teams. And my grandfather, who was a catcher and an outfielder, played in those games. My father, in the 7th grade, was a starting pitcher in high school. He had pro talent. Unfortunately for both of them, I had just enough time to get a uniform, sit on the bench. So again, when I tell you, I was a mediocre, multiple sport, emphasis on the mediocre part. But I did get invited because I did get a couple of scholarship offers to college. I got invited to a baseball camp, just like you see the guys today. I got invited to a baseball camp, and every time I would go, it'd be hundreds of white guys and 2 or 3 brothers, or maybe one brother. So I got to this one camp, and I saw about 4 or 5 brothers. I was so happy. Brother, first I went over to a brother, and I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi. We country, we happy to be here. What's up, brother? Hey man, what's up? How you doing? And the brother just like stood there and looked at me. And I was like, hey brother, what's going on? What's going on? And his brother just stood there. He was just like, no response. I said, hey man. Then another brother came. He said, oh no, man, he ain't like that. He Dominican. I said, hell, I'm Baptist. I don't care. My father said, don't tell nobody, boy. Don't tell nobody that story. No. Don't tell. Look. The brother was standing there looking like his name was Elmo James, and you telling me his name Santee Martinez or something.
Yeah.
And then he had nerve. And then it was the third brother had nerve to have a curl. Come on. You got curl, brother. You got curl. I had a curl too. You got a curl. I'm supposed to know that you Santee Martinez. You had a curl. Come on, brother. You got a curl. Don't be acting like that. So that puts, I want to tell that story because that puts Coach Baker, think about it, and they've been playing, people don't understand, professional baseball is the oldest professional sport in America. They've been playing, look, slavery ended, professional baseball began. That ain't hyperbole for people watching, go look it up. Slavery ends, right, 1865, 65, 66, professional baseball David, and that's also why people wonder why baseball people love their records, love numbers, because those records go back that long. But you think in all that time, only 3 black managers have won. And again, all those stats I gave you about Coach Baker, and he still couldn't get a job after all that. And the only reason he got the job, because when I say nobody wanted that Astros job, they couldn't get it. Think about it, you're a World Series team, but because you're known as a cheater, they couldn't get that job away. And when they announced that he was going to take that job, I mean, I felt some kind of way. But once again, and this is a message to young black people. Sometimes you got to do what you think is right, even when people who love you think you're making a bad decision. Because I can imagine how many black people told Dust don't take that job. Dust, you know they only want, you know the white folks only using you. But again, Dustin Baker, knowing Hank Aaron, knowing Kurt Flood, knowing Willie Mays, understanding how important it is. And sometimes as black people, we have to understand that the moment is bigger than us. We have to understand that what's happening with Jackson State, the moment is bigger than us. And Dustin Baker understood, like you said, Dustin Baker understood. Sometimes we got to be twice as good at what to young black people. And this is what frustrates me about so many young black people. That hadn't changed, young black people. You got to be twice as good as just to be average. And now, thanks to Dustin Baker, taking a job that nobody wanted, we got another history maker, and we got another person that's fighting to hold that door. So that some kid from Washington Addition in here in Jackson, or some young person from Clarksdale, Mississippi, can go and say, I want to go play pro baseball. That's a true, if you want to know if you're great or not, here's my definition of great. Great is things are different after you than they were before you. So if things are not different after you, you're probably not great. Things are different after Dustin Baker. He's great.
Well, thank you, OG, for that wisdom. I hope y'all paid attention, real one. Every time I talk to him, he give me something. But baseball is something we've dominated.
Yep.
Our people have dominated that too. Don't get it twisted, young people. Okay, we dominated that too.
When you said Ken Griffin, tell you how much I love Ken Griffin. When I was writing my book on Prince, I was in Minneapolis doing my research. This had to be 94, because I went to Minneapolis 2 years in a row doing my research. I get there and I hear the Seattle Mariners is coming to town and play the Minnesota Twins. Me and my wife bought tickets, because it was the Twins and the Mariners. Wasn't nobody going to that game. So look, we got great seats right behind Brother First. I bought front row tickets to see Ken Griffin strike out 3 times, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You know why? Because Ken Griffin has the most beautiful swing in the history of baseball.
I just told my brother that. I told him at least for left-handers. We were talking about Albert Pujols a couple weeks back and everything. I say he got a beautiful swing for a right-hander. For a lefty, though, come on now.
I've never seen a more beautiful. So all 3 times he struck out, it was beautiful to me. And I was probably the only fool in there. That's all right, Ken. You'll get him next time, baby. And they're like, who that fool up there screaming every time Ken Griffin strike out? But that's just, so like you said, we dumb man in the 70s and 80s. Pick your poison. Reggie Jackson, the greatest shortstop of all time. Ozzie Smith ain't been a greatest shortstop. I know we talk about the captain Derek Jeter, and we love him. When we found out he was black, we know he was black. And he found, Derek Jeter black. Black people didn't know he was black. Derek Jeter black. Like, we'll take it. He like our Patrick Mahomes. But if you don't know who Wizard of Oz is, Ozzie Smith, youngsters, go on YouTube. The greatest shortstop ever lived. And look, people talk about Muhammad Ali. Reggie Jackson was just as important at teaching black people to love them. So I remember a white reporter asked me, because Reggie Jackson used to hit home runs so far, he would stand and watch him go out. And you know how a white reporter won't put your, Reggie, when you hitting them home runs and standing there showing up the other team, what exactly is going through your mind when you're doing that? And Reggie said, I'm thinking about the magnificence of me. Do you know, Brother First, what they did to an 8-year-old black kid from Clarksdale, Mississippi, to see a black man say that to a white man on TV? And one brother, but I know you got to go. There's a brother I want people to look up, Rod Carew. Rod Carew was probably, and I know we call out a lot of names. Rod Carew was probably the greatest pure athlete to ever play baseball. And that's saying something, because what people don't know about Jackie Robinson was a All-American football player and All-American track player who was going to go to the Olympics. So you need to understand when I'm saying Rod Carew may have been better than that just as a pure athlete. So there was so many black players that I hate. I'm not calling their names, but in the 70s and 80s, and to see that we don't play baseball when it's a longer career, they make more money. There you go. They make more money. And check this out. They got a better union. Because what I love about Major League Baseball, they ain't got no problem striking.
They don't care nothing about it.
And them white fans that get mad, what Major League Baseball players will strike and it's because I'm not, I don't, these are all great. It's the debate is, what's the most difficult thing in sports to do? Hit a baseball or a golf ball. And I never learned. That's one of the things I worked, one of my college jobs, I worked at a country club. I used to be a caddy. So I actually worked as a caddy at Colonial Country Club. They just told that Colonial Country Club. But I never learned to play. But I would say that hitting a baseball, particularly having someone throw a 92-mile-per-hour fastball at you and then throwing a sinker right after that, and you trying to hit that, I think that hitting a baseball, and that we have so many brothers. Because Hank Aaron, one thing that this lost on Hank Aaron, I said about this, Hank Aaron was a home run king, but what people don't realize was Hank Aaron also hit for average. Today, I'm going to put it out there, dudes can't hit today. It's either home run or bust. That's the one thing that I hate. You couldn't play the shift. The way they play the shift in baseball, where they put everybody, you couldn't do that against Hank Aaron. You definitely couldn't do it against Pete Rose. And I know we talking about black people, but I have to throw this out there because Pete Rose won. He for a long time.
Tony Gwynn, from when I was growing up.
Tony Gwynn, a black man, was one of the last players that almost hit 400. And for those who don't know, nobody has a 400 batting average. Tony Gwynn, you would never play the shift on Tony Gwynn. Thank you for mentioning Tony Gwynn. I wish you would.
That was a bad man. No.
You get embarrassed on Tony Gwynn. And so, thank you I'm so glad. Thank you, because I didn't want to mention Tony Gwynn. I'll just say this about Pete Rose. I had to get off that Pete Rose chain because he just wasn't, his character wasn't. But when people like to say, well, Pete Rose ain't in the Hall of Fame, 3,192. He ain't in the Hall of Fame, 3,100. He's got more hits than anybody ever. So whether or not his sorry self is in the Hall of Fame, no one has had more hits. But so I just and the other reason about that connects, people don't know. When Pete Rose first got called up, because he took the place of one of the popular players, the white dudes wouldn't mess with him. So Pete Rose spent his first 5 years rooming with the black ball players. He spent his first 5 years going to dinner with the black ball players who couldn't eat with the white players. So Pete Rose, why I really hate that later on we found out that his character and a lot of other things was so off, because Pete Rose had a history of hanging out and being fair and dealing with the black ball players. So it really hurt me, some later scandals that he got into and those kind of things. But all that goes to that we got a history in baseball and we need more great athletes. So buy your season tickets to Jackson State Baseball. Or if you at any swag school or HBCU, don't just buy season tickets to football and basketball. We're going to support Tamika Reed. I got my basketball season tickets. Can't wait till they come. But buy some season tickets to JSU baseball. Support baseball. We're going to get black. We don't want another World Series to not have a black player in the league.
Well, shout out to another one of my OGs. I haven't met him yet. I would love to have the opportunity to interview him, Rob Parker. But I know that King would be happy that two brothers are sitting here discussing baseball. All right. For real ones, y'all chime in about your reaction to Dusty Baker winning the World Series. Put it on something.
Thank you so much for watching my daddy's YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, and turn on your post notifications. Okay, how do I do it?